Hey friends, Rick from BCW here with the FAB Breakdown, and in this episode, we're going to be breaking down all the news that LSS had for us over the past week and a half. We've got some product releases that are coming up that we want to talk about. We're also going to go ahead and get into some of the news that has already come out, as well as some of the upcoming events and predictions for Pro Tour number 1 in New Jersey. But up first, let's talk about something that's coming out this week. As of recording, this is the Tuesday before the release of History Pack 1. What is History Pack 1? Well, History Pack 1 is going to be a reprint from Crucible of War, Welcome to Wraith, and Arcane Rising. There are going to be selected cards out of those sets that are going to be reprinted. We do know that the Spring Tunic is being reprinted, as well as Command and Conquer are going to be reprinted. Some cards that are in much need of seeing a reprint. This is going to be a great way for people to get into Flesh and Blood as well. Instead of having to go and collect all of the original sets, you're able just to buy this one product and get cards from those sets, putting more copies out there as the player base grows. Now, these will have white border, and some people are happy that they're going to have white border, while some people think that it's a little bit atrocious. Me personally, I think that it's great in protecting the original printing and even the unlimited printing of cards that are no longer in print to be reprinted with a white border, thus allowing people that didn't buy in early on or didn't want to spend as much money to get into the game now have an avenue of picking up cards like Command and Conquer or Fendel Spring Tunic at a reduced price and still protecting the original value of the card. So all around, I think this is a phenomenal design space, and I look forward to more products like this from LSS in the future. With that being said, this is Tuesday before the release, and we do not have a full card list yet previewed or spoiled from LSS, and there is no scheduled announcement on the website as of this morning. So my best guess is we're going to get a card gallery update on Friday of release. With that being said, just in case we do or we don't, I'm going to try to get my hands on some of the product this Friday, do a box opening for you, kind of show off some of the cards that are in the set. So stay tuned for that video if you're interested in seeing what's in History Pack number 1. And speaking of getting caught up or getting into Flesh and Blood, let's go ahead and have a word from our sponsor, the fine folks over at BCW Supplies. Hey friends, Rick from BCW here with the product spotlight. Today we're talking about the BCW 3200 count card bin. And the reason why I'm bringing this up is I've seen on social media and in other public forums people asking what is the best way to store your Flesh and Blood collection. And in my opinion, it's the BCW 3200 count card bin. These things are absolutely amazing. They're designed to stack on top of each other and latch together, so you don't have to worry about them sliding anywhere. They're absolutely safe and secure with a latching lid to keep everything in place. The lid actually folds and tucks up underneath itself so it can conserve space for you while you're going through your collection. You have these 4 beautiful rows that are wide enough to house cards in sleeves, cards in top loaders. You have room in the box for tall trading card dividers from BCW to where you can label everything to make it easy to find what you're looking for. And you also have these removable partitions. Now what's great about these is there's little notches on the side where you can lock them into place, and you're able to keep your cards vertical while you are going through and removing cards to build decks or as you grow your collection. Again, the BCW 3200 count card bin is absolutely phenomenal for storing your collectible card games, just like Flesh and Blood. For more information on this and other products offered by BCW, make sure you head on over to bcwsupplies.com today and check out what storage solutions they have available for you. Remember, while you're at bcwsupplies.com shopping, make sure you use discount code FAB Breakdown. That discount code is going to take 10% off your entire order. So make sure you use FAB Breakdown at checkout to save 10% and show the support to the content that I create for Flesh and Blood by using that discount code. Save yourself some money and help support the show. All right, next on the docket, we want to talk about the world premiere event for Uprising, taking place June 10th, 11th, and 12th. We have 3 different locations, one in Madrid, one in Sydney, and one in Las Vegas, Nevada. Now, this is actually going to take place on Friday. That is going to be June 10th, and that will precede the calling that is taking place on Saturday and Sunday in all 3 locations as well. So this is very reminiscent of the Tales of Aria world premiere event that took place in Las Vegas that I got to participate in. It was a blast, a lot of fun. I highly recommend it if you can make it out to Las Vegas for this event. Please do. It is a wonderful time to play Flesh and Blood, especially when something is so brand new. You are playing sealed deck. It is limited. It does sound like this time, though, there will be the opportunity to win more of the new set product early. So that sounds like an absolutely amazing deal. The Tales of Aria one, we did not have the opportunity for prize support out of Tales of Aria. We got prize support out of the other sets. Perfectly fine with that as well. It's all about the experience and the fun and the community. Like I said, in Las Vegas, we had close to 1,000 players for that event. So super excited to see what comes out of Uprising. I do wish that it was somewhere other than Las Vegas, just because it was just in Las Vegas last year for the last world premiere event. I'm hoping that this isn't a repetitive pattern where all world premiere events will be in Las Vegas. I'm hopeful that it's something that will move around, maybe show some love up to our friends up in Canada, maybe out closer to the East Coast or the Midwest area. I'm sure this is something that LSS will look at and evaluate. But still, they're a lot of fun to participate in. I highly, highly recommend participating in them if you can. In other news, we also had ProQuest Season number 2 announced. This is the ProQuest season at the store level that will be feeding Pro Tour France. So if you're wanting to play in the France Pro Tour, I highly recommend getting involved in the ProQuests in your area. Now, that being said, there should be more ProQuests in Europe than in the US, so you may see fewer ProQuests this season because it is going to be a European-based Pro Tour. That being said, it wouldn't make sense to have as many of the ProQuests here in the US as we had for this upcoming Pro Tour in New Jersey. So make sure you go over to FABTCG.com and check out the event locator. Find the ProQuests in your area. They still have wonderful prizes. There's going to be a limited edition Dragon Shield Findel's Spring Tunic prize for the top 8. There's a little bit of buzz in the community. Some people really like it. Some people really dislike it. They wish that it was promo cards. Me personally, I think them doing anything at a store level is awesome as far as a way to qualify for such a large event. I do agree, though, I'm not a big fan of sleeves, even if they are limited edition or the only way you can get them is from this specific event as being a prize. I think the promo cards are things that you can actually play with as keepsakes are a little bit better in my honest opinion. But I'm not one to judge. I will still plan on playing in ProQuest as well. And we still do have the first place gold cold foil loot drop. So there is that to take into consideration as a reason to play in one of the events. Also, we have a lot of stores that like to add to the prize support, whether it is with sealed product or if it's with some sort of store credit or voucher system for an upcoming event. I have seen some that were offering some sort of stipend towards airfare to people that win. So again, check FABTCG.com for the list of the events, and then look at the events. They typically have a great breakdown on what the prize support is, even if the store is adding something extra to it. Get out there, play Flesh and Blood in the Flesh and Blood, and try to qualify for the Pro Tour. All right, and talking about the Pro Tour, let's go ahead and talk about Pro Tour New Jersey. Pro Tour New Jersey kicks off on the 13th of May. That is a Friday. Super excited to see what all shakes out of the Pro Tour. I know a lot of people are busy testing for the Pro Tour, and there is a calling that will kick off in New Jersey on the 14th. I do plan on playing in that calling. Super excited to see what's going on. Super excited to cheer on my friends that did qualify for the Pro Tour. And again, it's just going to be fun to be part of something this historic, whether you qualified or not. I highly recommend getting out there, participating, playing some Flesh and Blood, be part of the community, and witness history as the first Pro Tour for this wonderful game takes place in May. And talking about the Pro Tour and all the hype, I do kind of want to talk about the meta or speculation of the Pro Tour meta in Class Constructed. But first, I do want to kind of cover the banned and suspended update that came out April 25th. This was actually the scheduled banned and suspended update that was scheduled for May 2nd. They gave it to us a week early in order to give players more time to practice and test for the upcoming Pro Tour. Now, I believe that happened because Starvo did not win enough of the battle-hardened events that were added in order to hit Living Legend status. I think they honestly wanted to announce that Starvo was going to hit Living Legend and not be part of the Pro Tour. Unfortunately, or fortunately, if you're a Starvo fan, that didn't happen. So we got the announcement early, and there was some cards banned and suspended. So let's go ahead and talk about them real quick. First up, we have the banned card, which is Awakening. This was the Elemental Guardian card. This is what allowed Starvo or Oldhim to face tank a bunch of damage. Then you would play this card, fuse it, and go get a card out of your deck, like Pulverize, and then attack on your turn for 14, maybe 16 if you were able to activate Bravo's ability. And a 16 dominated attack with Go Again is back-breaking, especially after you just hit them for a bunch of damage and they just swing the tempo right back in this little combo. So that's gone. That could really weaken some of the face tanking damage that Bravo Star of the Show can take. I don't really think that it affects Oldhim that much. I didn't see Oldhim running or relying on this card that heavily, but I do think that it is something that will affect the majority of the Bravo Star of the Show decks out there. Special note, Michael Hamilton, the gentleman who won the calling in Indianapolis with Bravo Star of the Show, was not running Awakening. So it doesn't hurt that type of deck where there's a little bit more control and a little bit more flavor of the Guardian in it with some additional Guardian cards. But it does hurt what people have nicknamed the Casino style, where you're just trying to consistently activate Bravo Star of the Show's ability and be able to attack with Go Again and Dominate +2 damage, and then come in with a Frosty Winter's Wail for the majority of your attacks. That is something that has been hit by this, as well as the next card. And the next card was suspended was Autumn's Touch. Autumn's Touch is an Earth Element card, attack action card. It attacks for 7, 6, or 5, depending on the color pitch, and it is also blocks for 3. Now, the important thing about this card is that yes, there are replacements, but most of the decks were running those replacements, at least a full 3 of, in blues. So you have cut down on 3 of the blues that Bravo Star of the Show has access to. You've also cut down on a card that has a 3 block, while the other cards only have a 2 block. So there are some changes. There are some minor changes and inconveniences by this suspension until Bravo Star of the Show hits Living Legend. However, I do not know if it was enough to really knock Starvo down from being S tier, and we'll talk more about that in a minute. Another card that has been suspended is the Scaletta. The Scaletta has been suspended, and that one hurts a lot. So that was in answer to Viserai. It really kind of stops the Sonata Scaletta Viserai OTK plan because you're no longer able to pop it to give the next attack action and non-attack action card reduction based on the number of rune chants you have. The reason why I think that one hurts a little bit more is it also hits Briar as well. Now, Briar hasn't been putting up phenomenal numbers, but we have seen Briar floating around the top tables. There's normally 1 or 2. We did see a Briar in the top 8 in the calling in Indianapolis. Status. Again, this is a deck that has some legs. The Channel Mount Heroic version can race, but we've just lost a card that is potentially there for blocking and some cost reduction on the non-attack action cards that you may play that cost more than 0, and the attack actions that you may play that cost more than 0. So it does hurt a little bit. It does mean that you're going to have to pitch a little bit more, and you don't have that free 2 block of equipment just hanging out over in your equipment section. So yeah, I do understand why they wanted to break up that combo, because if Starvo is weakened, Viserai was primed to just be as dominant as it was in Blitz. Spoilers, Starvo is probably still as strong as it was. I don't think the changes hurt it that much, and we did take away one of the tools of the deck that was kind of effective at pressuring it. So we'll just have to see. We'll have to see what happens out of New Jersey and how the meta adapts. And then the last big change for the class constructed format was the announcement that Seeds of Agony was moved to suspended. All right, so Seeds of Agony was initially banned. Now it's been moved to suspended until Chain Bound by Shadows hits Living Legend. Now that kind of lets me know that they're not done with the Blood Debt / Shadow Runeblade cards, that they have plans on going back to that subtype and hero class again. I don't know when, but they did make that move now to move it to suspended. So Chain's the only one who can play those cards currently. So maybe it's one of those things where it is something that could be in a upcoming release. I don't think it's an Uprising, but I think it is something that could be an upcoming release where we're going to see more Blood Debt or Shadow cards for a Runeblade. So that's been moved to suspended until Chain Bound by Shadows hits Living Legend status and is no longer considered banned. When I saw it in the list without reading it, I was like, tell me they unbanned it. That's going to be broken. Chain is already a strong deck to play and probably one of my top picks for winning Pro Tour #1. Then I read further and saw that it was just moved from banned to suspended and was immediately happy, then sad. But moving forward, I understand. So we've talked about class constructed. Let's talk about Blitz briefly. Blitz, we saw our first hero hit Living Legend status, and like I alluded to earlier, it is Viserai. Viserai was just very, very well rewarded out of Everfest. A lot of great cards giving him a super aggressive plan and the ability to just dump a lot of damage from the first turn on. It just made the deck amazingly good. So Viserai is now retired out of Blitz, taking with it the Nebula Blade, and Blitz is now also under the Living Legend status and not legal for competitive play. We also got some banned cards and suspended cards in Blitz, and we're going to talk about those briefly. Awakening was banned in Blitz like it was for the same reasons that it was out of class constructed, with the exception of Bravo Star of the Show is not a Blitz legal hero. So this is really just affecting Oldhim. Again, I didn't see too many Oldhim decks using this card, but with the advent of Pulverize, and that's 14 damage coming in, potentially something that could be abused. So it just got banned as well. I can see it. I don't know if it was warranted or needed, but I can see it. We also saw some cards preemptively banned. So Heart and Crossstrap has been banned, and we also have the Stubby Hammers, which will be banned in June with the release of Uprising. So announcement to that was some of the new cards and some of the combos that could be done were some OTK deck possibilities, and it was very consistent and very consistently happening on the first or second turn because of those two cards. So those cards have been banned for that. So I'm happy that they're being proactive about it. I just kind of wish we had more information as to what that was that caused it. If we'd seen the cards and went, oh wow, I can't believe they're printing this, and then for them to ban it, go, okay, well that makes sense. Right now we're just taking their word for it, which I'm fine. They have history of knowing what is good, what is bad. We've seen some things that have been oppressive, and maybe they're just getting in front of it. So I'll give them the benefit of the doubt on this one. I kind of can't wait now to see some of the shenanigans that are coming out of Uprising based off of this banned announcement. When we get into talking about suspended cards, when LSS made this announcement about the new suspension category, they said they wanted to use it specifically in Blitz in order to be able to kind of control the meta or change the meta up to where it felt a little bit different, and we're getting our first taste of that. So right now suspended until the end of Skirmish Season number 5, we have the Sonata Arcanix. We also have 2 Wizard cards, Snapback, as well as Stir the Aether Wind. So this is kind of bizarre to me because we're banning 2 Wizard cards. Now, yes, Kano is strong in Blitz is an understatement because of the lower life totals and because of the ability just to chain off and do a lot of damage. And yes, we do see cards like Aether Wildfire, which came out of Everfest, which are really strong and really pushing some of the numbers. But Kano still hasn't been winning a lot of Blitz events. Now, maybe with Viserai gone, Kano would become the boogeyman, and they looked at the numbers and said, hey, we need to do something, so we're just going to suspend these cards. I know I said banned, but they're suspended, essentially banned, until the end of Skirmish Season number 5. You can't play them. Cool. Nice way to test to see what can be done. Kind of sad, though, that it wasn't after seeing some results from Kano because, again, I do like the Wizard. I do like Kano. I think it's a great class. I do think it can present a lot of damage, but also the 15 starting health is kind of a very fragile life point, especially when you have attacks printed in the game that are 14 damage, or where it's not uncommon for aggressive decks to be able to pump out 20 points of damage on a given turn. I think it may be a little too much too prematurely, but again, I'm going to give LSS the benefit of the doubt. The Sonata getting suspended, I completely understand. That card is bonkers. Yes, Viserai is gone. Yes, Viserai can't really abuse it, but Briar still can, and it is a card that I personally use in Briar as an aggressive card, and it is more oppressive in Blitz and less of a gamble than what you have in Class Constructed. So, yep, I can see why they did this. Yes, I think it was the right call. We'll have to wait and see, though, if Briar is still a powerhouse or can be a powerhouse in the Blitz format during Skirmish Season number 5. All right, so let's talk a little bit about the Pro Tour meta now that we know a little bit more about the banned suspended cards. Did LSS do enough to weaken Starvo? Personally, I don't think so. I think that the Michael Hamilton build is still extremely viable. I think it was probably the better build for Starvo. It has a little bit more control aspect for decks that want to go tall or the mirror match. So I think that Michael Hamilton's build is just perfectly fine. I think there's a few changes, obviously, that need to be made now that you don't have Autumn's Touch, but I think those are easy changes to make. I do think that it was the right call not to take anything away from Prism, as Prism is a good check and a good matchup into Starvo. Does it mean that it wins all of them? No, I just think it's harder for an inexperienced or a new Starvo player to navigate. I don't think we're going to see a lot of that at the Pro Tour as far as new players, but I do think that'll play heavily into the calling. With that being said, I think that Bravo Star of the Show is still the deck to beat. I have heard rumor of a Briar deck that's doing exceptionally well, always kind of floating around the top of the tables. However, that deck did lose the Autumn's Touch as well as the Skeleton, which is something they used to block when they didn't want to block from hand. Now that's gone. They may have to find other ways around the damage race if they find themselves on the losing end of that race. We also have other decks out there that have been doing surprisingly well in testing. There's a Frost Lexi out there that is absolutely just crushing. And now that Starvo doesn't have that catch-up mechanic, that Lexi deck could be poised to really put in a lot of work. So my guess is we're going to see a chain win Pro Tour number 1. That's my personal guess. I think the top 8, you're going to see Alexi, you're going to see a chain or 2, you're going to see a couple of Starvos and a couple of Prisms. That's my guess. What are your guesses? Leave them in the comment section below. Would love to hear your feedback and interact with you over what you think it's going to be. I will be at the Pro Tour. Like I said, I will be there at the calling, but I will be rooting my friends on and watching the Pro Tour closely. Kind of curious to see what the meta looks like after these suspensions and bans, and wonder what's going to win. Maybe it's Starvo. Maybe it's Chain. I don't know. Why don't you come follow along with me? I will be doing my best on social media to keep up to date with what I see at the Pro Tour and share my experiences with you, as well as the wonderful coverage from LSS and Channel Fireball, bringing you some of the best commentators for the Pro Tour. So if you're going to be there, let me know. Say hi on social media. Let's hang out. If you're not going to be there, follow along the adventure. We'll do the best to keep you updated as we can. So until next time, my friends, let's get out there, play some Flesh and Blood in the Flesh and Blood. But most importantly, I ask you to remember, please be kind.